most potent, grave, and reverend signors, my very noble and approved good masters, that I have taken away this old man's daughter, it is most true. True, I have married her. The very head and front of my offending hath this extent no more. Rude am I in my speech, and little blessed with the soft phrase of peace. For since these arms of mine have had 7 years' pith, till now some 9 moons wasted, they have used their dearest action in the tented field. So little of this great world can I speak more than pertains to feats of broils and battle. Therefore little shall I grace my cause in speaking for myself, yet, by your gracious patience, I will a round unvarnished tale deliver of my whole course of love. What drugs, what charms, what conjuration, and what mighty magic, for such proceeding, I am charged with all. I won his daughter. Her father loved me, oft invited me, still questioned me the story of my life, from year to year, the battles, sieges, fortunes that I have passed. I ran it through, even from my boyish days to the moment he bade me tell it, wherein I spoke of most disastrous chances, of moving accidents by flood and field, of hairbreadth scapes in the imminent deadly breach, of being taken by an insolent foe and sold to slavery, my redemption thence and portents in my travels' history, whereof antries vast and deserts idle, rough quarries, rocks, hills whose heads touch heaven. It was my hint to speak, such was my process, and of the cannibals who each other eat, the anthropophagi, and men whose heads grew beneath their shoulders. These things to hear would Desdemona seriously incline, but still the house affairs would draw her hence, which, ever as she could with haste dispatch, she'd come again with greedy ear, and devour up my discourse, which I, observing, took once a pliant power to draw from her a prayer of earnest heart that I would all my pilgrimage dilate, whereof by parcels she had some things heard, but not attentively. I did consent, and often did beguile her of her tears when I did speak of some distressful stroke my youth had suffered. My story being done, she gave me for my pains a world of sighs. It was strange, it was passing strange, it was pitiful, it was wondrous pitiful. She wished she had not heard it, yet she wished that heaven had made her such a man. She thanked me, and bade me, if I had a friend that loved her, I should but teach him how to tell my story, and that would woo her. Upon this hint I spake. She loved me for the dangers that I have passed, and I loved her that she did pity them. This only is the witchcraft I have used. This monologue is intercultural to me. The line I'm going to focus on is, rude am I in my speech. When Othello says this, he then goes on to make an extremely eloquent, long-winded and articulate point. In spite of the fact that he says he's rude or implies bluntness to his speech, and that's obviously a connotation attached to his skin colour, rather than a connotation attached to his actual personality, which is proven to be one of eloquence. So I think in approaching race, depending on who you're dealing with, sometimes, despite what is put in front of people, they will only see the cliches or stereotypes that have been attached throughout time. That and even the viewpoints towards race are definitely different in the Venetian society than they are in the 21st century growing up in Ireland and the UK. Something I discovered while working on this monologue is that Othello's skin colour is a key issue in the play, and it's something that Iago, the antagonist, uses for his own gain. But something that isn't talked about as much seems to be that Desdemona is a dutiful, loving wife to Othello from the very get-go. And in that sort of tragic character arc of Desdemona, you see the difficulties for a woman to marry in that society being pretty much the possession of the man. And within Othello, that's something Othello's guilty of, possessiveness over Desdemona, even before Iago gets involved. And I think that definitely highlights the hardships faced by women in a Venetian society or in this play. And I just wanted to highlight that because anytime Othello is brought up, it's not brought up in the same breath as gender issues. It's more racial issues. How will I change my approach to Shakespeare in the future? This has definitely been an interesting learning curve because coming over from screen acting, a lot of the scripts you get handed, it's more of a blueprint for you to create a character that hasn't been seen before. With Shakespeare, I think the script is more rigid, and at first that can very much restrict you as a performer. But once you understand that all the thought and heavy lifting has been put into these characters for you by Shakespeare, and you learn the punctuation and learn the structure of his writing, there's very little trying involved for character to come out. The more you can leave yourself alone, the more Shakespeare's work will just pour out through you. So I think initially there is this instinct as a performer, as an actor, to change and amend things to work for you. But my advice, and something I'm going to adopt going forward, is don't. The script is the law.